your brain can change. Like, when I learned about neuroplasticity, which is essentially that the reason why we act certain ways and the reason why we do things is because we have these hardwired, like, neural pathways in our brain. They are changeable. Like, neuroplasticity literally means to be able to, like, change your brain. Like, so you can create new neural pathways for new habits, for new belief systems. And when you do that, that's when your entire world shifts.
Hello and welcome to Not Another Money Podcast. Why is it called Not Another Money Podcast, you may be wondering? It's because this is not your typical money show. Get ready for real money conversations and lessons, expert insights from some of our very special guests, and hear some really inspiring stories from everyday people. On this podcast, you're going to learn how to earn more, how to spend less, how to grow the difference, and most importantly, live your best financial life. Hi Laura, welcome to Not Enough Money Podcast. It's so amazing to finally sit down with you and have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
Excited. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to be here.
No,
Thank you
good.
for having me. I feel like we're going to have a good chat.
No, I think it's going to be a great one. Like, I'm really excited to dive into the topic of today's discussion. But before we run ahead of ourselves, let's start off with a little bit of an introduction. So, in your own words, just tell the people all about who you are and what it is that you do.
So, I am a money mindset expert, a financial coach, speaker, educator, content creator, and also the host of my podcast, Mind, Money, Soul. And my whole thing is to, I guess, empower women to see money as a tool that can help them, like, live the life that they deserve and it not to be something that they're scared of. And I'm a big believer in talking about money in, like, a fun, judgment-free, jargon-free way so that people can actually feel good about money and confidently build wealth. So I do that across all the platforms.
Love
in all
that.
the ways.
Yeah, no. I've been following your work closely for many years, so I know you're very active on
Yes.
there. So, no, you're doing incredible work, and we're definitely going to dive into that in the conversation. But before we do start diving deep into those topics, what I do like to do is a little bit of an icebreaker with my guests. So, play a little bit of a game of Would You Rather. So, I'm going to give you some money options, and you're going to tell me whether you would rather A or B.
Okay.
Yeah? You ready? Okay, cool. So, first things first, would you rather have unlimited travel expenses for a year
Okay.
or a £50,000 salary increase?
Unlimited travel expenses.
You answered that so
Yeah.
quickly.
I was already sold when you said the
As
first
soon
one. I
as
was like,
you
yeah,
travel,
go.
yep, that's me.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking I'm going to Bali.
Yeah.
I'm going to South America.
Yeah,
I'm not just
yeah.
popping
You're
to,
not just
like,
going to
Liverpool
Greece or
Street. No.
something, yeah. I heard
Yeah.
that. Okay, cool. Would you rather invest in a startup that has the potential to change your life or use that money to travel to your dream destinations?
Ooh.
That one took a bit more thought.
Yeah. I think probably the first one, actually. Invest in a
Really?
startup. Yeah.
Why?
Because I feel like off the back of anything that I get from that, I can then travel to my dream destination.
Still links back to the
Yeah.
travel, right?
Still links back to the travel, but, like, I'm just, like, creating something that's going to keep me going, so I can
Yeah.
so I don't have one dream destination. I have
True.
there's so many places I want to see, and travel is my why.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that can front load it.
Okay. I like that, and I think I would have gone with B as well. I mean A as well. Sorry. Yeah, I think I would have rather invested in a startup, and I think just for the fact that it's the excitement of the journey. So
Yeah.
for me, it's like building something from scratch that is gonna have a lasting impact. I think
Yes.
would be amazing.
Yeah.
Would you rather have the ability to travel anywhere in the world, but only on a small budget, or travel in luxury, but to a few destinations?
The first one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not a luxury girl. Don't get me wrong. I'm totally down for a bit of bouge.
Yeah.
If it's there. But for me, the bigger thing is, like, meeting new people, having new experiences, like going to the beach in an amazing country doesn't cost anything. So if I'm then going back and hanging out in a hostel or, like, and I'm making some friends, like, that doesn't bother me. That answer might change in, like, 10 years, but right now I'm still in that, like, totally happy to slum it place.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
No, that's fair enough. Okay, cool. So the next one, would you rather find £10,000 in cash or get a 10% chance of winning $1 million?
Ooh. That's a good one. I would say the 10,000 in cash.
Really? Why?
Yeah, I think so, because I'm like, I can take it and I can do something with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's guaranteed. Whereas, like, obviously 10% is still a nice chance, but, like, 90% of not getting it and then have nothing.
And then have nothing.
Yeah.
It reminds you of Deal or No Deal. Did you used to watch that
Yes.
show? Yeah. And people take silly gambles. It's like, you've got 20,000 guaranteed, but you're going to gamble and risk what's in the box.
Yeah.
And then you see 1p in there.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Game
why,
over.
Why?
Yeah.
Why have you done that?
Yeah, I would.
Take the certainty.
Yeah, I think so. But then at the same time, now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, £10,000 is a nice amount of money, but it's not life changing.
Yeah.
So why not just take the risk of going that 10% chance? I think I'm going to change my answer.
You're not allowed to.
Okay, cool.
No, you can change it.
Okay, I'm going to change it to B, actually.
Yeah, really?
Now I've spoken about it. I think if the number was higher in cash, like, it would make, I would be like, yeah, fair at the guarantee. But actually, it's not so much money that it's like, oh my God. Whereas like 10 grand to $1 million is.
It's a big jump.
Big jump.
I feel like I will take the risk.
Yeah.
I'll take the gamble.
I'm gonna
Because
take
$1
the
million.
gamble.
How many times do you get a chance to just get £1 million in one go?
Yeah. No. B.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And the last one, would you rather have a job that pays you well, but is very stressful, or a low-paying job that is relaxing and very enjoyable?
Are they both? I'm like, it's 9 to 5 job. Like,
Yeah.
I'm working for someone. Then I would probably take the first one.
Really? Why?
Because unless I'm going to go and work for myself, of which I would take a pay cut, of which I did take a pay cut,
Exactly, yeah.
and then, like, you get all the other elements. If I'm going to be working for someone else, it's going to be 9 to 5. I'd rather go, do you know what? Let's enter a high-stress environment. Let's bash it out. Let's make loads of money, and then I don't have to stay there forever.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I hear it.
That's
yeah.
what I would say.
I think for me, peace of mind is everything.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be in a stressful environment that I don't particularly like.
Yeah.
It's different, like you said, when it's for yourself and you're building something,
Yes.
then fine, I'll take that stress. But
Yeah.
if it's stress and then it's not for my business or for
Yeah.
my family or for my future,
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
leave me.
But then it's like, if I'm high paid and I can take the stress for a short period of time, which is kind of what I did do before,
Yeah.
then you know there's an exit point. Whereas
True.
if I'm low paid and therefore, like, you've got to stay in that job forever because you can't afford to ever leave it,
True,
I
that's
would
even
I would
worse.
feel trapped.
Yeah.
Even though I'm living a nice slow life, I'd be like, I'm so trapped.
Yeah.
So
no, fair.
hey.
Thanks for playing.
Thank you for me being a guest on it. I love it.
No,
They're
thank you.
good ones.
No, it was good. It's interesting. It's always interesting to hear the different answers that people give and the reasoning for those answers.
Yeah,
So
it's good.
they're good.
I like
Okay, cool. And so the next segment, or the next thing I like to do before we dive into the main heart of the conversation, is I ask my guests to share a money moment. So this section is called Not Another Money Moment. So where you share a significant money moment from your life, whether it's from a young age or adulthood, just a significant money moment that's had an impact on your life. So what's your money moment?
Ooh, so I think it would probably be the moment where I first learned about investing.
Yeah.
I think it's had such and that's a positive moment for me. Like, it's had such a big impact on, like, my whole future. Like, learning about investing, the journey that I went on to understand it. Obviously now I teach other people to do it, so it's a big part of my business. And, like, the freedom is, like, really important to me. I think it is a lot of people, but really, like, you know, this kind of, like, security of having money, but, like, the freedom to kind of, like, live my life how I want.
Yeah.
Investing is kind of like the first thing that has felt like, oh, that's actually
That's
possible for
possible.
me because of the way, you know, the way that it works. So yeah, I think when I first learned about it, I think I was like 26. It was about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. How did you learn about it?
So I actually went on a date with a guy and we spoke about money.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He was like, he's
Heavy
super
topic for a first date.
I'm a big believer in talking about it, though. I'm like, let's have the conversation. So we spoke about loads of stuff, and I said, yeah, like, it was the time where I had like £20,000 sat in a cash ISA.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, your girl is balling.
Yeah.
And he was like, not impressed. He was like,
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was like, you do know that
Your money is losing
your money is losing value. And I was like, say what? I was really not impressed.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, okay. And I think because I was in a setting where it wasn't like a educational setting, it wasn't like I was watching a podcast or it came out of nowhere. I was like, oh my God. And he touched on it lightly and he kind of explained the concept of, you know, it. And then I obviously went and did my own research. And then I guess what piggybacked off the back of it is, like, I found this amazing piece of research from Fidelity about women and money. Read that and I was like, again, another light bulb moment. Put it on social media because this was right at the start of my, like, content creation journey. And I'd met a guy at a party who was a wealth manager.
Okay.
And he was like, I agree. like the language is overcomplicated, it is confusing, it's not aimed at women. Like, why don't we just like go for a drink and I'll tell you everything I know?
Wow.
So that's where the actual education part happened. We were together for about like 4, 5, 6 hours, just like chatting, and
Amazing.
he told me everything, and I was like, what's this, why does this, what does that mean, why?
What a lovely guy.
What a lovely guy. Big up Dave. His name was Dave.
Yeah, no, shout out Dave.
Shout
That's
out
amazing.
Dave.
You
Yeah,
didn't
and
have to do that.
I didn't have to do that, and like the
And
fact
it wasn't
that he,
like doing it for something in return. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to give you this information. Send
yeah,
out. You're
literally.
mine.
And we chatted a little bit over like,
Yeah.
you know, but it was literally like, okay, I ain't never seen him again. But I think he sees me on Instagram and he's like, you go girl.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But yeah, that I would say is probably one of my biggest
No,
money
that's
moments.
amazing. It's a big money moment,
Yeah.
and it is such an important thing as well, because you don't know what you don't know,
Yeah,
right? So
exactly.
you were doing all the right things. You've saved up all of this money,
Yeah.
and you're doing better than probably a lot of people your age at the time. But it's like you didn't know the extra bit of information about the fact that if you invest that money, it can work for you and you can make a lot more. So no, that's amazing. That's incredible.
It's really cool.
Shout out Dave.
Shout out Dave.
No, amazing. I was going to ask actually before we dive into the topic from what you just said in terms of the report that you read from Fidelity. Can you just touch on what it was saying?
So it just touched on explaining it touched on what investing was and kind of like dived into it, and then it just compared a lot of like male versus female spending, where discretionary money goes, language that's used, the difference of like what happens if you keep your money in a cash ISA versus if you keep your money in a stocks and shares ISA, and then how many more men are doing it versus women. And then it dived into the reasons of like why women might not be doing it. So it talked about the language, it talked about the gender pay gap and us just having less to invest. It talked about risk and how risk is viewed in the media and how that then makes women feel about risk. It talked a lot as well about like career gaps. So if you're a woman, you're more likely to take a step back to have children, which that adds to the wealth gap. And it just really explained it in like a very factual way from all the study that they'd done, and then applied it to this concept of like, but if you were investing like the men are, this is what it looks like. But it was really good because it really acknowledged like, if you don't know anything about this, you're not alone, type thing.
Exactly.
I felt very seen. I've still got the Instagram stories that I put up like 4 or 5 years ago on my highlights.
Oh, I've got to go.
You go and have a little look. Yeah, it's really interesting.
What's amazing about what you just shared is the fact that you, number one, went and read that report, because I know many people probably didn't, and then you took action on it. So what is it about you, or what is it that made you take those steps and actually do something about it?
I think I'm quite a big action taker anyway. Like, if I found out a piece of information about something, when it's then in my brain, I struggle to like ignore it, if that makes sense. Like, it's just little things. Like, I once read a book, played into that, and like, so when you have such a strong desire to be financially independent, I was like, there's no way. It was a similar time actually, and I had really bad insomnia, and then I learned all about sleep, what affects your sleep, all this stuff, and like I couldn't ignore that information. I had to implement the things. Like, I don't like knowing information and then
not acting on it.
Not acting on it. It drives me insane.
I could say I was the same. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I and I'm also I'm quite good at like self-motivating myself. Don't get me wrong, comes from being like that overachieving type A eldest daughter, like perfectionist type person.
Firstborn,
but it's also had a positive impact, so you've got to take the positives. You've got to take the pros and the cons.
Take the pros and the cons, right? That's definitely a big pro, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think this is a great segue into the heart of this conversation. I want to go back a little bit in time to a younger Laura and what life was like for you growing up. So if you could start by telling us a bit about your background, and on your website I read you said that money was something that was a struggle growing up. So just to hear where you got to in terms of saving £20,000, how did you go from money being a struggle situation? Give us that backstory a little bit.
So I've got 3 brothers and sisters. Like, so there's 4 of us plus my mum and my dad. Do you? Yeah. So I'm like, it goes my older brother, me, my younger sister, and then my younger brother. But like, My older brother is more like my younger brother. Like, I am like the eldest.
I know, because you said you were the eldest.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, I've got an older brother.
Yeah, but like I am
yeah,
like the
yeah,
eldest
yeah,
in the family.
yes.
But it was like, you know, my dad was self-employed. Probably shouldn't have been. Awful businessman. Great at what he does,
Yeah.
but like the business
The business
side,
side.
not so good. Was at work all the time. And then my mum had to go back to work when my little brother and sister were like 6 and 8, or however old they were, 4 and 6. So I was about 12. Mum had to go back to work. So they were out working a lot. And we still just never seemed to have any money. Now, obviously, now looking back on it as an adult, it wasn't just frivolous spending. It was like things were expensive, childcare, but then other stuff that they were dealing with, you know, like debt and all those things. But yeah, I just was like, money was just it, and it was quite openly talked about, it, but in a negative way. So, you know, like I remember being like 12 or 13, and we only ever went out for dinner 6 times a year, which was once every birthday. Like it wasn't never was like, yeah, it's Friday, let's all go out as a family. You know, we never had days out. We didn't do things together. Like we did go on a handful of holidays, but when my younger brother came along, it was like the £9 coupon, you know, the sun
Oh, the sun
runs.
holidays. Yeah.
We'd cut them out.
You go in there with the boys, actually.
Yeah. Which, look, we love, but like it was like it went from being like abroad, and then as everybody was here, it was like, and then we stopped going away. So it was, all these things, and you know, it'd even be like we'd go for dinner, and I would really be conscious of like the price of the meal that I was
At
buying.
12, 13?
Yeah. Like, because you know you've got my dad going, oh, you can't get that because that's no one get the expensive one. So it's like already it's being put into your psyche. Oh, can't get the expensive one. So yeah, it was just something that I saw from a really young age, and I remember there being a lot of like money struggles around the mortgage and you know all that kind of stuff. So from a very young age, it was a big issue.
Yeah.
And it didn't really change. Like my mum is now in a really, like, I think maybe because of what I'm doing as well, and she like watches all my content and like she's smashing it. Like she's proper like turn things around, but really like leveled up with her finances. But yeah, it was like that throughout my whole childhood basically.
Okay, so then there's a big gap then for me from your childhood to getting to the 20K.
Yes.
Talk us through what changed for you and what that, first of all, what that said to you, or
Yeah.
what you learned from observing your parents growing up, and then take us on that journey for you to be able to save all that kind of money.
So when I was decided I wanted to be an actress from like I was like 10, and I was like, this is what I want to do. Like there was no argument. I was like, I'm an actress now, and that's going to be my life. My
Why?
career.
How?
So I just remember, I know this is so random, but I was in year 6 and we did an acting class and we did Oliver Twist. So random.
Big up
and
Oliver.
big up
It's like my
Oliver
favourite
Twist.
movie of all
Is
time.
it?
Yeah.
No
Top 3.
way.
Yeah. It's literally top 3.
Really?
Yeah, I love Oliver.
Oh my
I could
God.
watch it back to back to back to back.
Oh my God, I haven't watched it as an adult.
What?
I know.
No way. I've even watched the musical, everything. No, I love it.
That's so funny. Wait,
Anyway,
that's what had a real impact on me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I like played Nancy in this little script,
wow.
but I just remember being like, this is amazing. And because I've always been a very confident child, like I had all the main parts in all the school plays. So I guess I was already acting from a young age, but I really remember being in that class and being like, this is a job. People do this all the time. Yeah. Well, this is going to be my job, you know? So it was one of those. And then I went through school, did my A-levels, and I did a great job at my A-levels. Like I could have gone to a really good uni, but I just didn't want to. Like I remember everybody in sixth form being like, oh, you're throwing it away. And I was like, no, I'm not. I don't care.
I'm gonna be a star.
I'm gonna be a star, baby. So yeah, I decided at 18 I'd get a job. Well, 19 it ended up being. I got a job, needed to save for drama school, and it was £15,000. So, and I knew like I wasn't gonna get help from anywhere else. Like it wasn't something that I could, you know, no one could pay for it for me. So I was like, right, better start saving. So this job, it was like a 9 to 5 job, you know. It was weird because all of my friends were going to uni as well, so you're still in that like phase of they're working in hospitality or retail and then like studying, and then I was at this like corporate 9 to 5 job at like 19.
Gosh.
Like let's go.
Gotta get that money.
Yeah, gotta get that money. And then by the time I was 22, so over the course of about 3 years, I'd saved 15 grand. Wow. And then I like 2 weeks before I was going to start drama school, I ended up going travelling instead. So 2 of my friends basically were like, do you want to come travelling? And I was like, this is a really good opportunity.
Wow.
And I deferred my place at drama school and decided to go travelling instead. But yeah, I'd saved that 15 grand. And that then worked out in alignment with that. So it's
Yeah.
handy.
So you'd not gone to uni, even
Yeah.
though you could have gone to any university that you wanted to, and made that decision that
Yeah.
I'm going to go to drama school.
Yeah.
I don't have the money. My parents can't support me with that right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah.
So you spent, a couple of years saving up
Yeah.
for drama school
Yeah.
to get that money to then go traveling.
Yeah.
How did you come to that decision? Like, what happened?
Oh my God, it was a really hard 2 weeks because I literally, from when they asked me, like, do you want to go? I knew that the cut-off point of essentially dropping out or deferring was 2 weeks. And I remember being like, I had so many thoughts and
I can't even imagine that.
yeah,
That's a big
it was
decision.
a really big decision. But I guess a part of what had happened is over the course of those few years is I realised I was good at other stuff, and whilst I'm very creative and I love performing, I also love numbers. So I had all my little spreadsheets, and like part of my job, my 9 to 5 job, was like quoting and pitching, and like it was in a marketing role, but I was an account manager, so I did a lot of like technical, like data-y, like numbers stuff, and I was like, oh, I really love this too, like I'm really good at it. And when I was going through the process of like auditioning for drama school and doing all of that, I guess over those few years, maybe my love for the industry changed. So when this opportunity came up, I was like, am I just going to drama school because it's something I said I was going to do from 10? Have I actually taken a moment to assess if this is still what I want? So when that opportunity came up, I was like, this feels like a good way for me to, like, I don't know, I guess try something else and then see if the desire is still there. And it was the right thing, because when I was in Australia, I remember I was in Sydney and I was like, I don't want to be an actress anymore.
Oh, wow, really?
And I had like quarter life crisis. But the industry's really intense. It's really like...
I was going to say, so what about the industry did you see that made you think differently about joining it?
I think like I would have gone from having a full-time job where I was making a good amount of money to then going back into education, into drama school. And drama school's not like uni where you like pop in for lectures and you're there like 9 to 5 like school, and you're in dance class or whatever, I would have done acting, but like you're in class. So you have your evenings and your weekends, of which I would have had to have worked and then still done all my like work, like homework or whatever, and socialised, and I would have had no money. So I think like the lifestyle of it, I was like, oh, I don't actually know how I feel about that. I don't know if I love it still enough. And I had a lot of friends in the acting space, so I was like, I don't know if I want that. So yeah, there were just a couple of things that played into it, but it wasn't, if travelling hadn't come up, I think I'd have still gone. So it was so good that happened.
The timing was just so perfect.
Timing was impeccable.
It's always these pivotal moments that come up in our lives that shape the direction in which we go.
It really did shape the direction of my whole life, because I came back and was like, okay, now what? So a very pivotal moment.
Amazing. And just interested to know how your family reacted to that decision.
I don't have that close of a relationship with my dad, so there was no reaction there.
Okay.
My mum's so supportive.
Good.
I honestly could be like, Mum, I am gonna go be a pigeon rearer, and she'd be like, that sounds nice, tell me more. She's so supportive. So when
that.
I lent on her a lot during that period of like that 2 weeks of deciding, and it wasn't like, well, you've always wanted to do this. She's like, what do you want to do? It was that energy. What feels good for you? I was like, well, and I was able to really openly look at it from that point of view. So she was amazing support. And I'm not going to be a pigeon rearer, but she would have been okay with it.
But it's good to know that Mummy would have had your back if you were one.
Yes, emotionally she had it.
Okay, so one thing I've noticed from your story and from this conversation we've had so far is that you're a goal-getter. You have a goal-getter mindset. You've pretty much had it from young, right? So where do you think that's come from? What do you think that drive has been? And why do you think the way you think? Do you think?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, lots of things.
Lots of things. I know it sounds weird, but I don't know. I think, like I say, your childhood has a massive impact on you, right, in the way that you show up. And I think I was given quite a lot of free reign when I was younger to, like, my mum really trusted me, which meant that I didn't rebel, because I could do what I wanted. So I just kind of like, I did do what I wanted, but in a very sensible way. Wow. I never pushed the boundaries. I was always the sensible one in the group, but I was always fun and and I think the kind of drama part in me, the actor in me, like, gave me confidence, gave me that energy of like, I can get anything I want, but mixed with, all the kind of experiences I had as a child didn't play into like me. it had both a negative and a positive thing, right? So it was like I was that kid in school that was classed as one of like the gifted and talented kids, which is great because I had all these
amazing.
extra, I had all
You
these
was one of
extra
those kids.
opportunity. I was one of those kids. But the downside of that is it gives you like this complex where you think you always have to be achieving. I've always got to go over and above and beyond, and I always have to, I've got to be a perfectionist. Like, so all of these things kind of played into it. But one thing I think had an impact is I've always really been interested in like psychology and the brain, and I did psychology and sociology at A level. Loved it, especially sociology. And then by the time I was like in this full-time job, I was reading self-help books. Like one of the first ever books I read like that age was like The Power of Now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? I did not play around.
19, 20. Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
and I bashed so many self-help books, and they're motivational, right? So it leans into you being a go-getter and like going after those things, which is why I'm such a big believer in like reading and filling your brain with that knowledge.
Yes. No, me
So
too.
it had an
I do
impact.
like to read. I have fallen off a bit recently, to be
Yeah,
honest, but
me too.
when I do find the time,
Yeah.
I do like to read. And self-development books
Yeah.
are like my favourite genre.
Yeah, me too.
Sadly.
I've literally read so many of them.
Yeah.
It's mental.
Good. What's your favourite one you've read recently?
Oh my God.
actually?
One that I'm reading and have read is the 2 books by Morgan Housel, which is The Psychology of Money and
love
Same
that
as
book.
Ever.
Oh, I haven't read that one.
Same
Is that
as
a new one?
It's so good. Yes. I like books that make you think. So like he puts across really good like concepts.
Right.
Like it's not a conceptual book, but like he'll talk about things in a really interesting way and just make you go, "Ha, never thought of that." I really love books like that, where they've got like a little bit of science and a little bit of data and a little bit of research, but then like a bit of psychology and a bit of theory. Like that's my favourite combination. So yeah, Same as Ever is really interesting.
Yeah. One thing you talk about a lot online
Yeah.
is money stories. Yeah. So I want you to kind of explain that a little bit to the people listening. Like, what is your money story and why is it so important to know and understand it?
So I see your money story as the impact that your childhood had on your core memories of money, which then drive the way that you behave with money. And it's emotional. So it's all the experiences that you had, any strong positive or negative emotions that you hold about yourself and about money, because the two are so interlinked. And the reason why it's so important is because I think money is seen as something so practical.
Yeah.
Numbers and spreadsheets and budgets and tax efficiencies. And actually what you forget is this whole emotional side is like all of the practical stuff is great, but if you don't understand your relationship with money, then it's hard to change any behaviours. And a lot of your behaviours right now are influenced by your money story. So it's like, if you want to be better with money, you need to look at your relationship with money. And to understand your relationship with money, part of that is understanding what your money story is. What happened to you when you were younger? Who influenced you the most? What things do you remember from a young age? Like all of those things have such a direct impact on how you then show up in the world now.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think I probably had a very negative money story growing up, just from my experience from childhood, having that money scarcity.
Yes.
Is what I experienced or
Yes.
witnessed a lot growing up. So I think that kind of had an impact on
Yeah.
me growing up in terms of me feeling like when I get money, I have to hold on to it,
Yeah.
or when I get money, I have to spend it quickly
Yeah.
because if I don't spend it quickly, I might lose it, or something might
And
happen
they don't
to
get
that
to
money.
enjoy it.
And I don't get to exactly
Yeah.
enjoy the money as much because I'm always fearful. It's either I'm going to lose the money or I'm never going to have enough money.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I think like that's really common. Like mine was totally the same. I had such a lack mindset. Like, and going back to the point touching on how I managed to save 15 grand
Yeah.
at the start, it came from a place of lack because I was like, so I knew I had to get it myself, and I was obviously a delusional 19-year-old to think, oh, I can just save 15 grand.
Yeah.
But the saving habits came from fear and lack and scarcity. So whilst I'm kind of like, I'd never change my circumstance ever, like, I'm glad I went through what I went through. It's made me who I am, and it helped me save that money.
Exactly.
And now I've obviously got a better relationship, and my saving and investing habits come from a good place, but I totally can relate to that.
So two things can be true at the same time, right? So it's like you saved all that money, which is a great thing, but it can also be a negative thing depending on your money mindset.
Yes. So it's like it came from, so like the kind of flow of what happened is like at 19, I saved 15 grand, which was for drama school. I then spent it all traveling, living my best life. And I then came home, got my old job back. I ended up saving another 25k.
Oh, wow.
And then I moved to London. So technically over the course of that time, I saved 40k. So, obviously this latter part of money like went into investing. But the younger part, that 15k, whilst it has a positive outcome because it allowed me to understand the power that having money has and the freedom it can bring you, the options, the choice, the behind that, the energy behind that was scarcity and lack and fear and, you know. But when I kind of saved this 25k, this second batch of money, it was actually from a more abundant place because I was like, oh, if I've done that once, I can do that again. And I went through this very big, I guess this would be another money moment, life-changing journey with spending. Because when I had saved that 15k, my habits around spending were I used to guilt trip myself a lot. My shoes would have holes in them. My clothes would not fit me properly or whatever. And I'd be like, no, I can't, like, spend anything on myself. Like, I never used to spend on myself. When it then came to me going, wow, I'm about to spend this £15,000 travelling, I didn't set myself a budget, but I did, you know, go to Australia, and I was just like, let's just see what happens. And I would, you know, transfer a bit more money from my cash. I used to transfer a bit more money, but what I was getting in return was life experience and memories and stories. And that the 8 months that I was away, really, I built this amazing relationship with spending and knowing, oh, wow, not only was I able to go travelling at the drop of a hat, I'm then the other side of the world at 20, I think I was 22. I did so much. You know, I travelled the East Coast. We did everything. The Whit Sundays. We did Fraser Island. I went to Southeast Asia. I was in Bali. Like, I did these amazing things, and money was the thing that allowed that. So I built a good relationship with spending, and I did tap back into this idea of, like, that money will come back. If I've done it once, I can do it again. So it's like I had to go through that so that when I then came home and I saved that money again, essentially, it came from a positive place and the journey was more enjoyable.
That's amazing.
It was like a nice experience.
And so then how were you able to change your money mindset, would you say? How were you able to shift from that place of lack and, you know, holding all that money to actually, no, money's just a tool, money's a vehicle for me to live my best life?
I think that, first of all, like I said, that money was saved from a place of scarcity. And I don't think I really realised I had a poor relationship with money until I actually did my financial coaching course. And I learned first, because you go through it to teach other people and, you know, all of that stuff. And then I was like, oh my God. And I had my own light bulb moments. But I think from that initial place of like scarcity to abundance was me seeing what money could give me, the light bulb moment of like, wow, I didn't have to choose between drama school or traveling based on which one I could afford. It was based on which one I wanted. So that was like the first moment. Then I was spending my money abroad and I was like, wow, this is really amazing. This is like, look at all this stuff I'm getting to do. Another one. Then I come back, got my job back. I ended up, my boss gave me my job back, but in a higher role. So I'd like, was getting more money, moved to London. And it was like all these things that happened that were like the action and the evidence to show me that like, okay, money doesn't need to be scary. Money doesn't need to be something I hoard. Money doesn't need to. So indirectly, I was shifting my money mindset without really realizing, just through going through these life experiences. And then when I did my coaching qualification is when I realized the more deep-rooted money beliefs I had around like making money, earning money, and like going self-employed, and realized, I guess, the negative beliefs I'd taken on from my dad's relationship with money. So I think, yeah, it kind of happened quite like naturally, should I say, throughout that. But as I was doing it and like making mistakes, trying stuff, seeing what happened, seeing how I felt. And also I have always been a big journaler. Like from the age of 18, I read this amazing book called The Artist's Way, which is written by a lady named Julia Cameron. And you have to, it's about finding your creativity and exploring like self-reflection, like all this kind of stuff. And you used to have to write this thing called morning pages. So you'd have to wake up in the morning and it'd be the first thing you do, get your pen and paper, and you had to write 2 A4 pages of anything. You could draw, you could write the same thing over and over, you could tell us like anything. And I did that nearly every day for like years and years and years, and it got me into this habit of journaling. And when you journal, you learn so much, you like self-therapize, and I think that had a big impact on my improving my relationship with money as well.
Oh wow. Oh, you really do take action when you read these books, don't you?
I'm a big action taker.
No, I love that. That's amazing. That's amazing. Do you know how long I've tried to get into journaling and I'm just not consistent with it?
Do you know what it is I think when it comes to journaling, you've got to take the pressure off. Because now I don't do it every day. I do it like over the summer. I barely did it
Okay.
because I was like, woohoo, living my best life.
Yeah.
And now I've like come back into it. And it's finding a time where it works. So mine is either first thing in the morning or last thing at night. I don't do it in the middle of the day.
Okay.
It's always like when I'm in bed and like I'm all cozy
Yeah.
and like, it sounds silly, but like I have a really nice pen that I write with, and I've got a really nice notepad. Like it makes the experience nicer. But it has to work for you.
Yeah.
Like
No,
there are
I've
certain
got so
things.
many journals.
Yeah.
So the nice notepad thing doesn't work.
Does
for
work
me.
for you.
It
Maybe
does
you're
for a
just not a
while.
journaler.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's the thing. I tried the voice ones as well, so I've tried to do like journaling with voice notes.
Oh,
Didn't go
didn't
very
work.
far with that either.
Oh.
No, I'm just like maybe. Yeah.
Maybe it's just not for you.
I think for me it's habits.
Yeah.
Getting into habits. I do struggle with getting into consistent habits with it. So I do want to do it because I've heard so many benefits of journaling. Like everyone I know that journals always rave about it, and I know for me with my short-term memory or my long-term memory being not the best, it would be amazing to have the journals to at least look back on to remind me of life.
Yes, I've literally got tens of books that from when I was 18,
So cool.
and I go back over them like maybe like once a year, and I just have a little flick, and I'm like, wow, I can see like where I was at that point, or what shifted for me, or how I felt. Like there's some bits that I read and I'm like, oh, I wish I could give that version of myself a hug. Like, but you see it and you're like, haha, look at the growth. Like that's cool.
It's
Check it out.
No, it's amazing. I would love to have that to look back on, because I could just imagine how incredible that would be. Because people always ask like, oh, what would you say to your younger self, or how would you speak to your younger self, and just to hear your younger self speak, that must be pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. I look at it and I'm like, oh. Have you read the book Atomic Habits?
Oh, I love Atomic Habits.
That's one of my favourite books.
Yeah, again, that's another book that has so many things that you're supposed to take action with. I've struggled with them. A few things I've adopted. So like the going to the gym, for example, me putting my running stuff out the night before, that does help, and put it on straight away first thing in the morning before I do anything. So little things like that, the habit stacking, I've started doing that.
I love a habit stack.
But yeah, it's a really good book. I just haven't applied enough of the stuff in there.
Yeah. I find if you if there are loads of things that you want to do, like, when you have one of those overhauls and you're like, I want to start working out, and then I want to, right? The pressure of that stops you doing anything. It becomes that, like, it's so intense that you then have inaction, as opposed to going, this 1 month I'll work on this one habit. Yeah. And then by then, at the end of the month, it's a habit. For example, like journaling. So then it's like, now I'm into it.
I think my issue is that I'm like, there's so much I need to do. So I just try and do it all at once. And then do it for like a day or two. And then I fall off. But I think that is probably the better option. Yeah. Just do one at a time. Yeah. But I just have so many things that I want to do all the time. And it's like, no, I need to do this. I need to do that. Yeah. I need to do 10 new habits. And then
no.
Yeah, none of them stick. We're only early into the month. And I've already broken like 5 of the habits that I've tried. I've got about 8 that I'm trying to build this month.
Do you know what I find really helps me? That I have, and look, I don't have a partner, I don't have any pets, and I don't have any kids. I'm just solo, me, living at home with my housemate. So, you have to take that into account, because I can just do things when I want. But for me, my morning time is my most important time. I do as many of my habits as I can in the morning, so that I'm not relying on doing them throughout the day or at the end of the day. And I have a wall which has got a bunch of post-it notes that are different colours, and it's got morning, daytime, evening. And I have them all stacked out, and I see them like first thing when I wake up. So like my morning routine's a little bit extensive, but like it gets all these things done in one go. And I found that really has really helped.
Okay. I'll give that a go. Yeah.
Try anything.
I'll try anything.
Yeah.
So when there's a version of yourself that you're trying to get to, and there's so many things that you want to do.
Yeah.
And it's just the fact that there's so much to do, and it feels like there's so little time. So it's not easy.
Yeah. It's not easy.
No.
But we're learning every day.
I love your little ad libs. They're so cute. I love your stories. They're so funny. Okay, cool. So next question I have for you, which you kind of touched on already in your answers so far, but just to be completely clear on some of the things that you talk about on your platform. So you talk a lot about money stories, which we've touched on, and then you speak about 3 core money beliefs that you have. Do you want to share what they are, if you remember them, or I can read them out to you and you can just expand on them?
I remember them. Yeah. So the 3 things I always say is that money is a tool, money is abundant, and money is energy. Yeah. So the money as a tool is when we think about making and growing our money, the focus needs to be on what that money is going to do for us, not just going after the money. So like, what is the why behind what you do? Money is just the tool. And the example I always give is, if you gave a hammer to 2 different people, one of them went and built an orphanage and one of them went and killed someone, you wouldn't congratulate or put the hammer on trial, it would be the person. So it's what you're doing with that and like what your why behind that is. And it's like using it as a tool to do the thing that you want. Like the whole money is the vehicle that takes you to the destination, not the destination. Because I think chasing numbers, especially now we've got everything is digital, like you're just chasing random lines on a screen in a bank. Do you know what I mean? What is that money going to do for you? Use it as a tool. And I talk a lot about, and it's not just about setting financial goals, it's about setting financial values. Like, so maybe it's freedom, maybe it's security, maybe it's generosity, like all of that kind of stuff. And what I also talk about this concept on my page a lot about achieving my big happy goal. So
Yes.
for me, it is to be able to, for the short term, or at least the next 10 years, it's to be able to like live a bit more of a digital nomad life. So to be able to travel, see the world and work, which therefore I say, okay, what do I need financially to get there? So the money is the thing that's bolstering it up. And the bigger thing is like what I'm aiming for. So that's the money as a tool part. Money is energy. I am a big believer in this like concept that money is just energy. It needs to flow. If you're a hoarder and you hold on to everything, that's not good energy around money, because you're basically you're saying to the world, like, I don't believe more is coming back to me. I don't believe, it's that kind of like sticky energy. Just as if you are frivolous and you spend it all and you don't think about it, the energy around that is like, I don't care about money, like I don't care if I have it or not. So it's like really acknowledging the energy that you have and the energy that money has, and like getting on a level with it. So like, what do you want money to be for you, and how do you get on that level? And then the money is abundant is like just this belief that money, but also resources, clients, opportunities, there is enough to go around. And I think it can be quite hard when we're in a place where the economy isn't great and when inflation's at an all-time high and everything you read in the news is about this and that and spending, and because the fear-mongering does put you into a lack mindset. And when you also are fed in the media negative stories about people that have a lot of money, and it makes you be like, well, those people that do have all the money are hogging it all and they're doing this and that. It's like not allowing yourself to fall into that trap of like, everything's doomed, money's really evil, there's not enough of it to go around. Like, I'm a big believer as well. Like, we live in a world now where if you have access to the internet and you have a phone, you could start a business or you could start making money. Like, it is a wild time. Now, it's not to say that we should monetize all our hobbies or turn everything into money, but the fact that we have access to do that is crazy, and there is more of a piece of the pie that you can have.
Yeah, true.
And anybody that I've met who is either high net worth, very wealthy, really really good relationship with money, having an abundance mindset is probably one of the biggest traits that they all have.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to believe that.
I think money definitely is a tool, and I think chasing money is a dangerous thing, because a lot of people, like, I think it was in Humble Penny's recent book that they spoke about it, actually, a report that went into what it takes for people to be happy financially. I'm probably not paraphrasing it very well, but essentially what they were speaking about is the fact that there's a number, basically, that once you earn that number, beyond that number, a certain amount doesn't make a difference to how you actually feel about money or how happy you are in life. And that's because the money isn't what makes you happy, it's what the money allows you to be able to do. So people think that, oh, once I get to the £1 million, then I'm going to be happy and live my best life. And that's why you hear stories of people, high net worth individuals, killing themselves and things of that nature, sadly, because it's like, okay, the money wasn't enough. It didn't change whatever else you were going through. It didn't solve all your problems, basically, what I'm trying to say. It didn't solve all their problems. So yeah, just focusing on money in itself, I don't think is ideal. You really want to look at the reason why you want this money and what it's actually going to do for you. Because if you just focus on that number, when you get to that number, you think that's going to be a happy place, but that's not the happy place. It's what you're going to do with that number as opposed to getting to that number.
Yeah, and I think like it falls into that whole, first of all, it falls into the whole I'll be happy when. Whether you do that with the thing or with money, it's empty. No, because happiness you can literally have in the now. Like, I'm a big believer in that.
I believe that too.
Yeah, and I think like we aren't taught this stuff in school, and like unless you have good people around you or you're a big reader or you're filling your brain with good stuff, you do just fall into that trap. And we live in a capitalist society, right?
True.
So not only is money like the thing that makes the world go around and we all need it, and and unless you are going to go and live off of the land and completely cut yourself off from society. Of course you do need money, but there's no shame in going, how much would I like? What would a nice life be for me? Like, you don't have to just live and pay the bills.
Exactly.
But like you say, it does get to the point where a certain amount of money after that, like, you don't get. I spoke about this with Timmy, Mr. Money Jar, on a podcast recently, and he made a really good point where he was like, technology has been democratized, and it, like, the same phone that you and me have, Elon Musk probably has. So at a certain point, no matter how rich you are, like, something like technology, you're not getting any better technology for your everyday things. And it's really being able to go, it's really important to have leisure time and things that bring you joy. And if you just have a load of money and you're not doing all those other things that actually bring you true joy, what's the point?
There isn't one, exactly.
There isn't one. So yeah.
I'm interested to know what made you actually pursue a career in financial coaching. So obviously you started off wanting to be an actress, and then you went traveling the world, and then you came back working at the marketing company, and then you ended up in financial coaching. Talk us through that journey and what made you get into that.
I went from, wanting to be an actress from a really young age, and then the job that I had was in marketing. I was like an account manager, went traveling, realised I didn't want to be an actress anymore, came back, got my job at the old company back, but I was a business development manager, which was essentially like driving around the country, pitching, talking to brands, doing all this stuff. And I had this inkling where I was like, I don't think this is what I want to do forever, but I'm just going to stay in it right now because I really love my boss and I've got a really great working relationship with him. So moved to London, and this was back 2 years before COVID kind of like kicked in. So I was working from home really early on, and I'll be going to like coffee shops and like, there was not many people doing it.
Before it was a thing.
No, before it was a thing. So easy to like sit and get coffee because it was always free.
Yeah.
But I remember about 25, 26, I went into therapy because I had like a midlife crisis of like, I've spent my whole life wanting to be an actress. Now identity crisis is like, I don't know who I am anymore. And then I was like, well, maybe I should set up a blog. Like, I love talking. I was a bit too scared to start a vlog. I was going to do YouTube. Kind of wish I did now, but I didn't. Set up a blog and add all these categories: yoga, travel, beauty, fashion, food, and money. And then every time I sat down in my spare time to write a blog, I'd always write about money. So I was like, do you know what? And I remember the day that I decided, do you know what? I'm just going to talk about money. I was with my friend Becca, and we were driving around. We'd just gone for a hike in Surrey. And I was like, I think I'm just going to talk about money. Like, getting out in nature, I find, is such a healthy way to clear your mind and get clarity. So did that, decided to go all in on it. And as I found myself talking about it online, I always found myself taking an emotional, psychological aspect. And I think because I'd read all these self-help books for the last 10 years, that it was like all these, it all just came together. And then there was a bit of a scandal online with a coach that was kind of like scamming people out of money, a business coach, not a financial coach. And I remember I just started working with clients, and I was like, I don't want to get trapped up in this thing where people are like, who are all these coaches calling themselves coaches when they haven't got a qualification? And that's what made me go, I think I'm going to look into financial coaching and get a qualification. So it was a combination of, for like, credibility, knowledge, and I'm so glad I did it because I learned so much about myself and the way to coach and all of that. And then when I did it, I was like, this is cool, love this, gonna do this again. So that was, it just kind of kicked it from there, really. Even though I am a financial coach, I still do so many other things that I really love and enjoy. And I'm also doing my financial planning diploma as well.
Oh, amazing.
So studying.
How's that going?
It's so hard.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I love learning. So I'm like leaning into like, I tell myself every day, I have a strong brain, I have a good memory, I'm a good learner, but it is hard.
And you're proving it to be true every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Adding more strings to your bow. Love that.
Bling.
And so what do you love most about your job so far, would you say, the coaching?
So with the coaching bit, what I love is the light bulb moments that people have. Like, financial coaching is like financial therapy. It's so emotional. Like, most people mostly cry in sessions, especially when I work for like a longer period of time. But the light bulb moments around like, oh my God, I didn't realise this about myself. Oh my God, I've never thought that before. Oh my God, this is what, I love those moments. I love them. So with the financial coaching part, it's that. But with the rest of my job, it's the ability to still perform. It's the ability to perform, because I still kind of get to act a little bit in my content. So yeah.
Amazing. And the public speaking stuff, how do you find that?
one of my favourite bits.
Yeah.
I love public speaking. I've always felt very confident getting on stage. And I think my public speaking career started quite early on in my career. Like, I remember I got asked to do a speaking job within about a year of doing content.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of just taken off from there, because once you get one, you get more.
Yeah.
But all of the acting training meant that I get on stage. And I always say, I would rather, even though I'm very confident, I would rather you one day came up to me, gave me a microphone and said, get on that stage and talk in front of 5,000 people, than you putting me in a room with 5,000 people telling me to go network.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
I hate
interesting.
it. I hate it. I don't know what it is.
That's
I
very
know, and
interesting. I would not think that at all.
yeah, and I'm a good conversationalist. Like, I
Exactly.
love chatting. But if you put the title of like networking, like, here's a bunch of business people, like, they might be able to help you with your business. I'm suddenly like, I don't know who to talk to. Oh, how do I make it look like I'm not trying to like get too much out of them, and I'm not being seedy, and what if they're not interested in me? You know, I go there.
Yeah.
Whereas get me on stage, I'm like,
Performance
Yeah.
time. Yeah, performance time. So working with your coaching clients over the last few years, what would you say is a common theme that you see with the conversations that you've been having?
I think some of the common things are definitely this idea around, like, when it comes to overspending, the fear and the connection to like one's sense of self-worth. So how somebody feels about themselves and how they show up in the world, and their confidence, how they feel about their body, how they feel about who they are as a human. There's a big connection to like overspending. So that's definitely a big one.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then I also think this idea that like, the whole like, what should I be doing with my money? There's so much fear around getting it wrong, which is making people either not take risk, not even do anything about it, not make decisions that are right for them because they think they're making the wrong ones. This idea of like constantly getting it wrong. I would say that is a big one. And, and I work with so many different clients, like such different ages. And, I also have the other side where you have the people that are really scared to spend, which is kind of like, I see myself in them from like a young age. And I am such a big believer that money is meant to be enjoyed. You're not meant to just save it and invest it all. Like, you are meant to spend it in the now as well. And there's this amazing book called Die with Zero from Bill Watkins. Oh my God. That's
Die with Zero. Okay.
So good. And he talks about this concept of like, if you go through your life with the habit of saving and investing everything, and you're like, well, at least I'll be okay in retirement, at least I'll be secure, and I'll do all the things that I want to do when I get there. And then you get to 60 or 70 and you don't have the same health, and you don't have the same energy, and you don't have the same time, and you don't want to do things in the same way. And it's not to say you're not going to do fun things in your retirement, but don't save up everything for that point, because also the chances of you then just flipping your habits and being able to draw down on all this money you've saved probably going to be really hard. So finding that balance throughout is really important.
And how would you say people can go about finding that balance, would you say?
I think, first of all, knowing that you're going to be in different eras at different points. Sometimes you will be in a saving era or an investing era. Sometimes you will be in a spending era. That is okay. It doesn't have to be a 50-50 split of like the three, or 30-30.
Yeah.
You can, it's going to go in waves. But what I would say is you need to get to know what's going on with your money, because there's no way you'll be able to enjoy spending in the now and saving for the future if you don't know what's going on with your money. And then when you work it out, it's like, what am I actually working towards? So you want to know what those future goals are. What are my savings goals? How much do I need and when do I need it by? That's going to help you figure out what to be saving. Investing, when would I like to retire by? When do I need to access that money? What would I like to retire on? That'll give you a bit of help around investing. And then spending, it comes down to like, what are my values? What are some things that would really bring me joy in this moment? And they're not just habitual, emotional impulse purchases. They're things that I'm making a conscious choice to spend money on. Doing that exercise, it doesn't have to be done in once. You can work with a coach, you can do it on your own. But when you get an idea on those things, that will feed into your spending plan and helps you go, okay, maybe this is the split. But again, there is no right. So like, let go of this notion that there's a right way to do it. And work on your relationship around how do I feel about spending, but also how do I feel about saving, and like find where your sticking points are.
And in terms of unpacking that relationship that they have with money, so outside of getting a coach, which obviously would really help, what kind of practical things would you say they could do? Journaling, would you say that would be one of the steps?
Yes, if you want to shift your relationship with money, awareness is key. You can't change what you don't know. And it's all just data. So when we are journaling, and you can just pour things out on paper. No judgment. No one has to look at it. No one's going to judge you on it. The key thing is you don't judge yourself, and that you look at it and you go, who would have thought? And you can look at stuff from your past, and then you can look at stuff from your now. Like, what are my biggest challenges now? Why do I think that's happening? And just sometimes that is enough just to like start to dig deeper. So journaling is a massive one. And then when it comes to putting things in action, it's like changing your language. So not saying the things that you have been saying. Stop saying I'm so broke. Stop saying I'm always going to be in debt. Stop saying money is for, rich evil people, or rich people are evil. Like, look at the things that you're saying and be honest with yourself about how they could be holding you back. Because I'm a big believer that like language is key, because your thoughts create your emotions. Your emotions create your behavior, and your behavior over and over again is what your life is. So how you're thinking about money is how your relationship will be with money. So really changing your language. And then also I think like really looking at what you already have in life is really important. It can be so easy to get back into that abundance mindset, looking at what you've already got, practicing gratitude, doing all of the things to go, okay, maybe I want to be there. Maybe right now I'm in debt, or maybe right now I've got a little bit in savings and I would like to be financially independent. But learning how to close the gap between where you currently are and your future self. Because if the gap's too big, you spend your whole time in the I'll be happy when.
Yes.
Whereas if you go, okay, I know that's where I'm headed, but I'm going to enjoy the journey there anyway. So what can I be appreciative of now? It sounds so like simple, but like a roof over your head, the food that you get to eat, like they're the things that on a daily basis we kind of do take for granted.
Absolutely.
And not
Your
everybody has
health,
them.
yeah.
Your health. Like for me, one of the things that I'm eternally grateful for, and I'm really proud of myself that I've cultivated, is my female friendships.
Love it. Yeah, I always see you guys. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
You lot are like friendship goals.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I've got like so many girlfriends who are so supportive and have taught me stuff. And I'm a big believer that life is actually about like laughter and dancing and nature and like feelings and memories and experiences, which you don't actually need money for. So if you can invite those things into your life now, as you then, the journey towards building money, whether it takes 5 years or it takes 50 years, is more enjoyable. Because what happens is you get to that point when you then hit it, and like we said a minute ago, you then go, oh,
Exactly.
well, if I like look back on my life and I go, oh, I haven't got, all I did was moan, or all I did was X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I think it's really important to like awareness, get honest with yourself, change your language, and be grateful for what you have now.
And I think a couple of questions then before we close, actually. Advice to anybody that right now isn't doing well financially or doing well with their money mindset. Any advice for them to kind of help them out of that situation? I guess you've touched on quite a lot of it already, but just any final words of advice that you'd give them?
Yeah, I think it's really hard to admit that maybe you're not in the best place. I think there's a lot of shame around money in the UK.
Yes.
Shame doesn't do anything though, except keep you stuck. Shame is one of my least favourite emotions.
Yeah.
And know that, I'm a big believer of your net worth is not your self-worth. So if you have debt or if you're not feeling your best, financial self, that's okay, because anything can change. Actually, everything can change.
Exactly.
Like, that's what's so amazing about life. Like, there's this phrase that says the only permanent thing is change. I love that quote. Facts. So know that whatever position you're in right now, it doesn't always have to be like this. The honesty part is really important. Not shaming yourself, seeing everything as a lesson. And then I think if you're like, okay, well, I'm here now and I want to get to there, fill your brain with knowledge. If you can't right now afford to work with a coach, or you can't afford to see a financial advisor, or you can't afford to invest in certain things, podcasts, YouTube videos, books, whatever it is, fill your brain with that knowledge, because what will happen is it will spark little ideas, and then you can find the motivation or the finances to do the next step. And all the money mindset stuff is so, like, you can do it at home. That's the great thing. But what I will say on that is it's all well and good looking at your past and understanding maybe why you've behaved the way you are or what's gone on. That's only part of it. The next part is taking action.
Yes.
Like, you can have all the knowledge and the, all the data in the world, but you have to then take action, even if it is small, slow growth. £5 a day that you're saving, £10 a month that you clear off your debt, whatever it is. Yeah. So I think, like, small actions over time compound.
Yeah, exactly. It really does. The compound effect takes place that way.
It does.
Okay, yeah. So before we close, then, if you have any final thoughts or any final messages to the listeners, all around the topic of money mindset or anything of that nature.
I think, and I sort of touched on this a second ago, but like, know that your brain can change. Like, when I learned about neuroplasticity, which is essentially that the reason why we act certain ways and the reason why we do things is because we have these hardwired like neural pathways in our brain. They are changeable. Like, neuroplasticity literally means to be able to like change your brain. Like, so you can create new neural pathways for new habits, for new belief systems. And when you do that, that's when your entire world shifts. So know that, like, even if you have been a certain way for like 20 years, you can still change. I think people can literally still change right up until the day that they die. So that's really important, because I think sometimes people get stuck in the dumps of like, oh, well, this is just how I am, and this is how I've always been. Doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
And that in itself is kind of like this self-sabotage mechanism
Exactly.
to keep people stuck from doing the hard work. So yeah, know that you can change. And also, when it comes to like money on a practical level in relationship with money mindset, there isn't a completion point. You don't get to a point where you're like, yay, sorted now, I can tick that off the list. It's an ongoing thing, because new level, new devil. You know, you encounter some financial problems, something happens unexpected, you get a pay rise, like anything can happen that make you go, okay, need to like work on this.
Yeah.
So don't see it as a like a one and done. See it as like just an ongoing, like always learning, always growing, always changing kind of thing.
And I guess before we go, if you have any questions for me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Mike, do you know what? Question for you, because I know that you're really into like money mindset stuff as well. Like, and what are your favorite things like that you've learned about it? That you've gone, oh my god, that's such good.
About my money
Yeah.
mindset. So I think mine was unpacking my beliefs that I had around money. I had very limiting beliefs in terms of money being hard to come by, and me being a money hoarder. All of those kind of things were things that I struggled with for a long time. And I think when I bought my first house and got myself into a lot of debt, again, it just reconfirmed those beliefs, negative beliefs that I had around money. See, Tolly, you're not good with money. Money's hard to come by. Look, you've lost all your money. Now you're in all of this debts. I had all of these negative beliefs around money. But when I started tapping into resources about money mindset and money beliefs and money systems that people have, and actually you can change it, like what you were saying, I started working on it. It's like, actually, no, I'm not bad with money. Yes, I've made a mistake, but I'm not a mistake. I can do better. I can change my financial situation. Once I knew the blueprint and the steps to take to pay that debt off, I was able to embark on that debt-free journey. And then it's now building evidence in the other way that actually I can do this. So once I paid off that first credit card, it was like, oh, wow, I don't have to stay in debt. I don't have to remain in this position. I can transform my financial situation if I do the work, kind of thing. So, but it's true what you were saying in terms of it being a continuous thing, because I find myself sometimes falling back into those negative money beliefs. So even though I thought I'd conquered it once I'd become debt free and I was good with money and I was budgeting and I was using money as a tool, like you say, to achieve the financial goals that we were working towards as a family, there are still times when I think, oh no, I'm not going to spend money on this just in case X, Y, Z. And it's like, oh, those beliefs are still creeping back in. So it's a continuous battle uphill, I guess, to keep myself thinking in a positive way around my personal finances.
And do you know what's interesting about that is that you even do stuff in the money space, right? You have a podcast, you talk to people, so it's like no one is subject to like, or exempt, should I say, from those things. But it's like spotting them and being like, oh, okay, there it is again, and like labeling them. I always talk to people like name it. Who is that person that keeps popping up? Because you're not your thoughts.
True.
They just keep happening to you.
It's true. No, amazing. No, thank you so much, Laura. You've been absolutely amazing. I'm sure the listeners are going to get so much from this episode. So before you go, actually, where can people find you? What are you working on next? Any upcoming projects that you want to plug?
So you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on TikTok, and you can find me on LinkedIn if you're corporate. And everything is pretty much just Laura and more. My podcast name is Mind Money Soul, which is on Spotify and Apple and all the other big platforms. What am I working on at the moment? Do you know, I'm actually taking it. So I've just finished my Feel Good Investor course where I teach women how to invest in the stock market. And I'm going to be at some point turning it evergreen. So I won't be launching it. It will be, you can buy it at any point. And yeah, I would just recommend follow me on socials because my Q4 and 2025 goals are very content creation heavy focused. I'm going in on that side of
Oh,
it.
interesting.
Yeah.
Love that. Oh, I'm excited. Is
Dun, dun,
the lady
dun.
with the red wig
Sandra.
coming back? Sandra, that's her
Sandra's
name. I was
coming
trying to
back,
remember
and
her
Sandra's
name.
got friends.
Oh, no way. Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, so I'm really leaning into like the entertainment, like
Acting.
making money fun. Yeah, and like
Yeah.
bringing. And I love, I love selling products and services and helping people, but I love content creation.
Yeah.
So watch this space.
Oh, exciting. Okay, no, thank you so much, Laura. It's been amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Yay.